a miracle, by definition, is something that's highly improbable. That's the definition of a miracle. And miracles are what were created, are what God sent for people to have certainty. So it's this kind of deconstruction thing that just it is offensive to just common sense of it all. I'm not. I mean, you know, a miracle happens. Well, it was really I mean, that's the thing. It's highly improbable.
Hey, Catharsis, have you seen the movie Pulp Fiction?
No.
Okay. Well, there's a premise in a scene in Pulp Fiction. You got two hitmen, and they're about to execute someone. And the dude is hiding in the bathroom with a gun, and he waits for his moment. He kicks the door, and at point blank range, he shoots 7 shots and misses. And then the hitmen kill the guy and then execute the person they were. Then they're at the diner, and they're having a conversation. And Samuel L. Jackson's character is saying, "This was divine intervention. We shouldn't be here right now." And John Travolta's character is saying, "No, the guy's just a bad shot. You're reading too much into this." And that's what it's all. This is the fact of life. You're going to see two people. They're going to experience the exact same thing. One is going to be like, "Look, statistically, it's not a big deal. You guys are reading too much into this. You look at the complexity of the cell, the fine tuning of the universe, the mathematical structure of the Quran, and you say, hey, it's just a coincidence." But someone else is going to look at it and be like, "No, dude, there's no way this happened haphazardly, and that this is deliberate design." And that's just the nature of what it's like in this world. That's the reason that people are saying we won't believe until we see God physically. The concept is God's going to show us enough that those who believe, it's going to reassure their hearts. Out of all the books in the entire universe, this one book that is supposedly, the Word of God that was divinely inspired 1400 years ago, that has these mysterious initials, that is talking about this number 19, has this phenomenon. Now, yeah, some people can look at it and be like, hey, it's just a coincidence. But a believer, the purpose, is, as stated in the verse, is to reassure the believers that what we have today has been divinely preserved since the original transmission to the prophet. That hasn't been altered, it hasn't been changed. That basically we still have validity. That what we're reading today is exactly what was sent down 1400 years ago.
Right. But the thing is, like, for the aleph, right? If you wanted to make it code 19, you have to ignore some alephs, right?
No, I
So
mean
the ones that you ignored, what's your validity? It's more like
the aspect is, look, when you're writing, there's a whole slew of words that when you write, the question is, are you going to include the aleph, or is the aleph just a vowel? You could pick up any ancient manuscript and you're going to see variations in the aleph. That's just a fact.
Right.
The thing is, there's a certain number of alephs that, in essence, are essential because they impact the meaning. But then there's a bunch that, in essence, you're going to find, basically, if you pull the ancient manuscripts, you're going to fall into one of three camps. One is going to have a huge deficit of alephs. One is going to have a huge abundance of alephs. And then you're going to find some that are in between. Still
Right.
say,
So the ones that you pick, right, in the Quran is not based on, it's more like based on personal opinion to force the miracle. It's not based on like, okay, the aleph exists in the Quran, no doubt. But you said I'm gonna ignore it because it doesn't have value in the verse or in the word. That's your
Can I
personal
just add
opinion.
one point to this? Is it okay? So people get distracted by the alifs all the time. But even without the alif, let's look at the set where there is no dispute about, like the qaf. Qaf in both Surah Qaf as well as in Surah 42, Ain Sin Qaf. Ain Sin Qaf by itself, right? And Sawd. And
Right.
Sawd is really a miraculous thing because it's one of the examples that exposes a typo, a spelling mistake as prevalent in the modern mushafs, which can be verified in the most ancient. So it's after the Uthmanic codification, canonization, that this mistake in Bastat and the word in 769 got trickled in, right? So Sad, then Noon, Hamim, Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad. all of these consistently, one simple single rule that in all the surahs where they occur together, the total sum is a multiple of 19. So one statistic by random chance, you can get 1 out of 19 chance of that happening. 2 in a row, it just explodes, 1 over 381. 3 in a row, 4 in a row, 5 in a row, 6 in a row, 7 in a row, it's beyond probability at that point. So people keep arguing about Aleph, and I believe that Rashad's counts are divine. He was divinely inspired to count even the Aleph counts. But there
I
is no
don't think he was
excuse.
divinely inspired because we just talked about his translation, right? And he had to go through
Let me
hadith and
finish. Let me finish. Let me
we'll
finish.
finish about it.
Let me
Okay,
finish.
go ahead.
So even without the Aleph counts, it is truly miraculous that everything else lines up. The only exceptions are, interestingly, in surahs that start with the Ta, like Tasin, Mim, Taha. These are the only three that don't conform to that rule, right? So then you would have to explain how every other initial follows it, and it's not. It's not like a random chance for sure, right? That so many in a row, all of them in a row, line up to be multiples of 19. So coming to the question about divine inspiration, I can get to that at a later time. So I'll stop here for now.
This kind of it reminds me of the same request at the time of the previous messengers. That the people are always, unsatisfied with what they have. They want something else. They want something more. They want it constructed in their way. Salah comes and says, "Hey, I have this camel proof." And people say, they're not happy with it. They want to. What else is interesting is that they want to kill it. They want to murder it, right? And we see the same thing with the mathematical structure. It's like the people who are the most adamant against this are the traditionalists. Is because it basically confirms that yes, the only divine revelation we have is the Quran. That it basically destroys this narrative of Hadith and Sunnah. But in essence, they're the ones who are the predominant kind of like voices trying to say, "Oh, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim isn't 19 letters." Like it's just such like comical kind of level of argumentation.
Right. Yeah. So Rashad's claim was that the Quran is not protected via recitation. The Code 19 protects the Quran. That was his first claim,
It's not just
right?
that. It's they kind of how do you put it? They
That was in his book.
they
That's what he
complement
wrote.
they complement one another. Because I'll explain.
Sure.
If we didn't have the recitation, we wouldn't have anything to basically base Code 19 on. Right? Like even the term Hafez, which means guardians, is also what modern day Arabic used for someone who memorized the Quran. That in essence they're creating a distributed network of memorizers of the Quran. The challenge is, you have this example like 769, where in essence, okay, the word, is it with a sod or is it with a sin? Both link in the audio recitation are one and the same. So then the question is like, okay, well, which one is it? Or same thing with the word layl. Do you write with 2 lams or 3 lams? Aleti, do you write it with 2 lams or 1 lam? These kind of things that in essence there's some debate. This helps solidify that no, this is the way it is.
I think it's a good point.
So
Even
the
the question.
purpose of Code 19 was to protect the Quran. That was his argument, right? It's not just the miracle and shows you probability and all that. Right? It's like, how is the Quran protected? How do you know that this Quran was the one that was given to Muhammad? Right? And you cannot rely on people saying it's recitation or via hearsay. Right? So the Code 19 purpose was to show the construction, like it's protecting the Quran. So if that's his claim, it has to work on the Aleph, Lam, Mim, Ha, every word, every initials.
It does.
Right?
I mean, that's
But then, no, it doesn't, because he chooses which Aleph. Well, actually, he didn't do the Alephs, by the way. He failed at that because he didn't know which one to pick. The Aleph came afterward.
But you're making stuff up now. Look at Computer Speaks. He has basically the Aleph counts in there. Like I said, I mean, say I can.
Yeah, but he didn't get Code 19 out of it.
Yeah, no, you do. You basically see all 13 Aleph surahs, they all come out to multiple 19. I can replicate those counts. The only challenge
Yes,
is, like I said
but
before,
after
is
you
that
ignored some
if I'm
aleph,
talking,
not all,
let
not
me
including
finish.
all the alephs.
Let me finish. No, because the thing is, the question is, okay, which aleph is a vowel and which one is a consonant? This is something that even though if I can say, hey, look, I'm matching Rashad's counts, it should be these ones. How do you validate that? Because there's always going to be the concept. Oh no, you shouldn't count this one. You need to count this one. Oh, don't count this one. You got to count this one.
But why?
What do you mean
What's your
why? What
purpose?
do you mean? Because you're saying
Why
in
do you
essence that
count this one and not that one?
no. That's the whole thing. Is we have the counts from Rashad. So you're saying he doesn't, right? I'm saying no, he does. It's in Computer Speaks. You can look at the book online. You can order it. You can see the counts. You can replicate those counts. The challenge is again, someone's going to say, hey, why'd you count this one and not that one? Right? And then at that point, you're going to say, well, look, some manuscripts write this one with one aleph, some write it with two. Which one do you go with, right? This is just something that it's like, look, this is an inherent challenge with the alephs. You're not going to find two manuscripts who write it the same way. This is just an inherent challenge with the Quran. But the
Right.
aspect is, okay, take aleph out, everything else
So
matches.
you see, the thing is, this is where I say forced. Like this is where you being arbitrary, right? Just like we were talking about the miracle of 7, and then Navi was like, "Oh, this is arbitrary. Why did he choose the first verse of chapter 1 and the last verse of chapter 114?" There's no reason behind that. And that's the
You know
same
the
thing I can.
concept. No, but I feel like
Just
okay.
let me finish.
There's a concept known as specified complexity. Are you familiar with this?
No.
Okay.
Complex.
So
The Quran is mubin, clear. I don't do
no.
complexity. I do
You don't know what
simply
specified
simple.
complexity, but you're already arguing. Can I finish?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So specified complexity. This has nothing to do with the Quran. This is just how do you detect design. This is a design inference mechanism, scientific mechanism. Okay. If I have a coin toss and I record the outcome of tossing a coin 50 times in a row, okay? Statistically, that outcome has never occurred in the history of the universe. Okay? Is there any specificity to that outcome? No. It's just complex, but there's no specificity. There's no reason. If it wasn't this, it would have been something else, right? The reality is if you say, look, I'm going to determine if you live or die by this coin flip, okay? And you have to flip it 50 times. If you don't get the exact sequence that I prescribe ahead of time, you're going to lose your life. Okay? You flip the coin
Right.
50 times, and sure enough, you get that exact outcome. Now, one person could say, okay, well, that was just a coincidence. I got lucky. Good thing I get to preserve my life. Someone else is going to be looking at that and be like, okay, dude, this coin is fixed. Something's going on. It's statistically impossible that I would have just arbitrarily flipped an honest coin and got that exact sequence. At that point, you have specified complexity. You have a complex outcome. The probability of that outcome is low, but it had to happen a very specific way. Otherwise, there's no purpose behind it. And this is what we see with the
Right.
Quran. It's like, look, we didn't pick the letter, we didn't pick the book, we didn't pick the letter, we didn't pick the number, right? All this, in essence, was already preserved in the Quran for 1400 years. Like every single manuscript of the Quran, you go to chapter 2, the first thing you see is Alif Lam Mim. No one picked that. No one said, hey, we're going to pick Alif Lam Mim. Right? You go to Surah 74, Hidden Secret, Al Mudathir, which literally translates to cryptography. You open up after it says that the human being says that this book is man-made. It's at over as 19, and it gives 5 reasons for what it is. Again, we didn't pick the number 19. Then you go to these, you look at the aspects of the Quran.
Right.
114 surahs, 19 times 6,
I
6,022.
understand your point of view. No, I get that. But for me, it's easier to find false in a premise, in a conclusion, than to find it as true. So all you have to do is just find one thing that is wrong with it, and you're done. You don't have to go through
I,
probability or
I,
let's
I
mix
don't
and
think
match
that's
or
true
pick
at
a
all.
huh?
Right. I don't think that is true at all.
It's very
So,
easy to find falsehood. Falsehood is
Hold
very
on,
easy
hold
to
on.
find.
Let the
no,
beast
that's not
speak.
true at all.
Let the
What you're
beast
saying is
speak.
not
Go
completely
ahead,
false.
baby.
Okay. So, for the sake of argument, just for the sake of argument, even if we take the alifs out of the data set, with just the remaining initials. If it's beyond probability, it's beyond probability. Simple as that. Right? So that somebody has to come up with an explanation for that. Right? So even if you take alifs out of the data set, it's beyond probability. So I don't think that if one thing is false, or you can claim that the whole, you can just throw away the things that you cannot answer, right? We don't know all the answers. That is for true. And the God reveals what he wills, right? And he reveals it slowly, and it's not over, and he reveals more and more. And as the time is going, he's revealing more knowledge, right? But even the very, very basic things, keep the alif aside. If you are questioning the alif, even if you keep it aside, there's no way to explain that Sad and Noon and Ain Sin Qaf and Qaf and Hamim and Kaf Haya and Sad and all of these in a row end up being multiples of 19. That's just not just got lucky. And as Dude was saying, everything in the intent, right? It's not some random letters that are picked arbitrarily, but it was like a glaring anomaly. These initials that have perplexed people for hundreds of years, 14 centuries. It's those specific letters. And the prophecy is not an anomaly either. It's Surah 74. It's a very specific number that will fulfill these things. It's almost as if like Jesus was going on a street. Somebody's claiming that, oh, Jesus got lucky that somebody came alive. He said that I'm going to raise the dead, and he touched somebody and that person came alive. Oh, that's a fluke. It's like saying that, right? There's intent behind it. Somebody just randomly came alive, and it's not that Jesus took credit for it, right? It is a specific miracle that there's intent behind it, and the data checks out. So there has to be some explanation for why this turns out to be the way it is.
You know what this
And I
reminds
want
me? Just
Go ahead.
really quick. It's kind of like the lab leak theory, where everyone's like, no, it came out of a wet market in Wuhan. It's like, are you sure? There's a level 4 bioweapons lab in Wuhan that's studying the coronavirus. You know, it's like, no, that's a conspiracy theory. You're making it up. It's the same thing. It's like, look, we have enough data points to basically show that this is deliberate design. You know, but if the aspect is like, well, look, you haven't found the exact DNA strand inside this lab to validate. It's like, okay, well, we have 95% of it to confirm. You know, there's enough probability there to say that, okay, this is not something that is just fringe, it's made up, it's forced. It's like, no, this is a very solid foundation, more so than the competing hypothesis.